You're tuned in to Captain Wade, and what I want you to do is, before you get too excited, I want you to release, catch. This is Captain Wade's channel, and I want you to know you're watching it. Remember to catch, and release. This is Mark Gonzalez, Captain Wade.
Hello, Del Mar 2019. How you guys doing today?
All right.
Thank you for showing up here. I want to talk to you today about the Midwest Finesse that has absolutely transformed how I fish the inshore waters here in Southern California. My name is Wade Harness. I'm a Southern California guide here. I fish here year-round, and I'm going to transition from the smallest to the biggest baits, starting at 2.5 to 2 3/4 inches. And you wouldn't think that a small bait like that can produce such results. But this system is able to hand me by far double to triple my decking averages that I'm normally used to by throwing power fishing methods. Anybody here know who this gentleman is right here? Pardon me? You're close. And we had a couple gentlemen here that I already spoke with that know clearly well what and who brought about beetle spin. Nope. Got some giveaways too here, if anybody can guess. Give you a nice prize. This gentleman here, the heart of the Midwest Finesse system, Chuck Woods. And he doesn't get enough credit for what it is today known as the Ned rig system. Chuck Woods is the creator and developer of the puddle jumper, the beetle, and the beetle spin, a lure that many of you all know well. You may not know who it is that developed it, but I guarantee you it's either in your tackle box today or you walk past it. And you recognize this here, Conglomerate Pure Fishing is the one who is operating this now and putting it out. But a couple other people have put it out. I guarantee you've seen this, maybe your grandfather has it in his box. He's also the gentleman that created the puddle jumper. This amazing little lure. I'm going to break it down too, as I said, from size being the smallest to the largest. But this is an absolute deadly bait. And through technology over the years, it's changed to what people now know as the Ned rig system. A lot of people want to credit Virgil Ward as the creator of the beetle and the beetle spin, but they've got that completely wrong. You can even look as of last night on Tackle Warehouse's own website. Sorry, I got a big raspy voice from speaking the other day. But as you see here, even a screenshot capture from Tackle Warehouse's website last night, they want to go and credit Virgil Ward as the creator. The Ned rig today, as we know it, has changed as the evolving technology of Elastec baits. You can see how flexible this bait is and the durability that stands. And it's as a result of this that allows you to catch so many fish and not have to change out baits constantly. A minute ago she was, but it's because the fish are all splashing in her face that, of course, she definitely is like, hey, what are you doing, Daddy? This here is Ned Cady. And he's the gentleman that's responsible, of course, for this Ned rig and where he's taken it today. Ned Cady is from Lawrence, Kansas, heart Midwest here. He's taken this since the 50s. When he was 13 years old, he's a fishing guide until he was 20 years old, second year in college, 20 years old. From 1953 to 1960, he had the famous Guido Hibden teach him the Finesse rig system back on the lake of the Ozarks with him and his family. And they were utilizing originally these small round jig heads, round ball heads, and some of you might know them today with marabou tied to them, the small beetle jigs, in addition to these small jig worms. And what they did essentially was taking what you know as Senkos, or small different stick worms and small jigs, and testing them out over decades and decades, variances of fractions, 1/32 of an ounce, 1/16, 1/10. These real weird numbers that you don't see normally in the industry. Normally you're just used to, 1/4 ounce, 3 ounce, 1/2 ounce, or whatnot. A lot of these people what is the comparison of what weight? I always get people asking me is, what kind of weight should I use that's similar to a quarter ounce? And he's noted over these years how much that these little tiny versions and customizations, that they would take these baits and cut them up and affix them to small mushroom-shaped heads, the originator being gopher tackle. And they noted that they're getting more bass and a variety of different freshwater species on these pieces that are shorter than 4 and 5 inch. And he has cataloged this meticulously. What is so amazing about both his writings as a journalist, he has a professional background as an archivist for the University of Kansas, and his diligent record keeping, especially as a field editor for In Fisherman magazine and a Hall of Fame writer, has helped him to refine this rig over these years and decades. And he's not endorsed specifically by the Z-Man system or sponsored by any means. He has just noted this and has chosen Elastec as the best possible material. Back in 2006, he was covering and doing a story with the Kevin Van Dam, KVD, and checking out his system of his shaky-headed experiences. And while he was there, Kevin Van Dam gave him a package, which is what started it all out, of these Strike King Zeros. And it is specifically built and made, extruded from Z-Man factory, and made from Elastec. It says it right on the package here. So what he did when he found out this new material and how amazing it is he took them right away, he cut it in half, and started fixing it again to his little tiny jigs. And tested out this material and found that this is the material that is able to withstand so many different attacks from a variety of predators, and it really appeals to me here in the inshore waters, being able to have a bait with how angry our spotted bay bass are that repeatedly will just tear apart your appendages. Normally, when you throw out a plastisol bait, you're going to be good for maybe, 1 to 10 different fish. He's trying to put out a Ned rig bait, and this thing absolutely has no durability. After one fish, it's absolute garbage. You can see time and time again, it takes only nothing, and this fish will tear this bait apart. Our spotted bay bass, calico bass, sand bass, anything, tear this bait apart in a matter of seconds, and it's absolutely worthless. You look at these baits, they're designed under Elastec, and repeatedly even the smallest appendages, under constant strain here, a rib design profile, little tiny swimmerettes. All of these baits can withstand constant resistance and attack under our fish, so I don't have to change out baits constantly. Even a big giant swim blade like this, even if I was fishing yellowtail, calico bass, just again, you can't do this holding on to the lightest end here. It's not going to break. I can sit here all day long and bore people. And a regular plastisol bait is not going to do that. And there's a reason what comes from this though. It's the action on that bait that these fish are looking for, and a strike indicator. So right here we're going to focus on these TRD hogs with this design that Chuck Woods designed back in '71. You can see this TRD hogs, which is a giant tip of the hat back to Chuck Woods. Almost identical, but Chuck Woods created this design from Harold Ensign's Reaper, Marlin Company, Ted Green. And this is almost identical, but with new technology, enhanced flexibility, and this is a buoyant, natural product. There's no PVCs, there's no phthalates in it. If a bird happens to pick it up, or if a fish can pass this, and there's no toxic breakdown of it. This rig also is absolutely amazing to take people out, whether it's somebody who's brand new to fishing, whether it's somebody who's never in their life has been out fishing before, little tiny daughter, your son, absolute amazing. Veterans too alike too, it's not just a beginner's tool. You're going to see the tournament anglers too utilize this rig to round out their balance and score major tournament winning successes. There's nothing that I've found in 20 years of banging this coastline. I've tried a variety of different techniques and tools. Every time ICAST comes out with something new that you hear from the Japanese anglers, the latest and greatest fad, I'm sure to try out every single thing in an attempt to try to break our Inshore code. Nothing I found has been able to do that until I came across 10 years ago both this material and this system on the Midwest Finesse rig. This material is so lifelike when you feel it, it's unlike anything that you feel. It almost puts out almost a slimy texture and salt content. This bait here, the 5-inch fatties, has a little bit higher salt content, but they do that on purpose to allow for extra castability. I can launch this bait even under 1/5 of an ounce. A lot of people misconception is that they're not going to get the distance from this bait under a small jig like this. That couldn't be further from the truth. I can launch this thing. I can launch this thing with the aerodynamics of the design of it and throw it to the other end of this haul here. Not a problem at all. It's just a flick on a spinning rod setup. And the setup is base too for bait casters. A lot of guys try it with mono. It's really dedicated to a spinning setup with braid. I'll break down the exact reel and rod combination here, but there's a couple handouts here that I provided. I wanted to go over real quick. There's 6 basic Midwest Finesse retrieve techniques, but we're going to go over 4 of them, and what are the main ones that are beneficial here for the inshore setup. The swim and glide technique allows the bait to just make your simple cast out with your spinning rod setup. Pow, allow it to go down to the bottom. As soon as you feel that, you're going to want to swim the bait slowly. Bring it up just a little bit, a few feet up off the bottom, give it a pause, and allow that bait to just glide back down to the bottom. If you want, you can allow it a second or two to stand up off of the mushroom-shaped head, and that buoyant bait is going to lift up, and depending on if you have a creature bait or antennas, it's going to just flop and wave into the wind and the current. One thing that really helps on baits that are 3 and 4 inches larger is anything that's over that hook shank is going to greatly have an exaggerated display of action. Of course, under the hook shank is going to be stiff. The whole section that the hook shank is going to stiffen that section, but everything thereon after is going to be an insane exaggeration of action there. Just at the bay bass seminars and everywhere with their power fishing methods, they're always talking about fishing slow and low. The retrieves, and whether they're fishing underspins, swim jigs, different swim baits on heavy different bases, it's going to be swimming them slow and low. But there's absolutely nothing slower and lower than the Ned rig. The Midwest Finesse system. This puts it right into the bite zone and keeps it in the entire time. This is a 3-inch bait here. It's both equally productive in saltwater and freshwater. And it's this technique that's spread originating in Kansas City back in the late 50s and is spread now all across the entire globe as a result of Chuck Woods. This isn't your typical finesse rig either, but a fun, inexpensive, and easy to master technique with absolutely boatloads of fish. I haven't seen a single technique that's able to produce as many fish as this rig right here. Right here is a comparison video with a traditional creature bait, hellgrammite, something similar of a plastisol nature. It's only a 3-inch bait. Look at the crazy action that this thing is able to produce. And of course, I'm getting every single kind of glitch and troubleshooting issue here. Why? The battery goes out. I'm extremely sorry, everyone, but this is what happens day of. Believe it or not, literally this is Murphy's Law of my life. Even as a guide here in Southern California, I will go through all of my electronics. I'll have a client that's booked out a trip from Chicago a year in advance. And I will strip out even if I'm not encountering any corrosion on my electronic system, I will go through just to make sure that he has a good time the night before and strip out everything and redo every single electronic connection, fuses, everything. Fuse box, test it, and then sure enough, it works perfect. And then the day of, I will go and it doesn't perform the day of. Whether it be my bilge pump or electronics, it's just Murphy's Law with me. But I do apologize. And as you can see, this bait falls lifeless. This bait falls lifeless to the floor and has no action at all. It has no durability. After just maybe say 1 to 2 fish maximum, this fish is going to be done. An Elastec bait can fish for at least 80 to 100 fish on the side that you hooked it. Then you can flip the bait over again and fish it for another 80 to 100 fish. Here it is, underwater footage, both of those two little quivering tails, even a dead stick move, undulate, and just draw in strikes. The little tiny swimmerheads don't break off. As I was saying here, bonefish, testament to the Midwest Finesse rig system, right there. Quality bonefish. I can't remember, 2.5, 3 years is the last time that I pumped a ghost shrimp. It's not even necessary with Elastec material. It doesn't matter where I am. It doesn't matter if you're even on a kayak or not, or shore pounding. The mushroom-shaped jigs. This is the backbone, the heart of the Midwest Finesse system. This is what causes the buoyant, non-toxic material to stand up at attention and draw in strikes. Whether it's a creature bait and it has a natural defense posture, it's equally as effective both across freshwater and saltwater based systems. It's producing gigantic fish, and these fine wire hooks are helping to have effortless hook sets and guarantees the amount of fish that are coming over this boat rail. You don't have to swing on these fish either. You just a slight winding into them, and you instantly have a hook set with them with this fine wire. For heavier areas and heavier current areas where you want to button down your drags, there's a lock that's been based down in Australia called these Ned lock systems here. And it's a number 1 and a number 2 hook. It's not an aught size, it's solid. And these are a Mustad Ultra Point hook, and they're not going to bend. These are for heavy current areas that I'm fishing, around structure, pilings, and places where you're really not going to want to pass up even an inch of drag before these fish are trying to wrap you around a piling or something and break you off. There's a hook for every single system that they've got here. And the way this all started out wasn't even from the industry placing these baits. It was from these individuals taking Senko worms and a variety of different stick baits and cutting them to their own liking. And it caused a variety of different manufacturers to look at this and see that this is a storm that's taking over. And it's not just some fad bandwagon thing that you see that normally happens when ICAST comes, and there's a couple different variety of rigs that come and go within a short period of time, 6 or 9 months, and you won't hear about it again. But it's been several years, and this is nothing but gain momentum. And whether you're fishing in an exposed rig, which I personally prefer, you can fish these weedless rigs here on a shroom head. They have multi-strand wire keepers, dual. Whether you're fishing a rock pile here, you can keep it tight configuration, and it's adjustable too. You can fork it out when you're in heavy vegetation. They also make micro finesse shroom jig built on a hook size number 1. And the TRD cross system fits on this perfect. The common misconception of this rig that I see across the board, that people are moving it way too much. Being on a kayak and dealing with current in an inshore based system versus how this Midwest Finesse rig relates to the freshwater system, you have to deal with current and movement, so you have to do very, very little. Movements of just a quarter of a reel handle, not spinning it and grinding it and bring it back to you. One little movement and pop and twitch of what you're doing is going to move it a considerable amount. The reason why this jig produces so many fish here inshore is as a result of what you're looking at right here. This looks like something ungodly or unearthly, and I've taken my GoPro camera and a variety of different cameras and lowered it into our fishery to see what the composition looks like in here. And you can see it looks like Mars with craters, holes, and pockets. And what that is because of all of the main forage that our spotted bay bass and inshore fish eat, whether it be short fin corvina even, halibut, spotted bay bass, calico bass, sand bass, white sea bass, spot fin croaker, yellowfin croaker, you name it, all of them are keyed in on this micro forage level. Sure, they'll chase anything that you throw at them, and they'll come and hit stuff up on the top of the surface. What the main thing and the whole reason of this system is to bring as many fish into the boat as you can in the shortest amount of time. A lot of guys don't have all day to go out there and fish. The original guys that created this system normally only went out for a 4-hour period, and what their aim and their benchmark was 25 fish an hour. They may not always achieve this every single time they go out, but this is what they aim for, and they achieve it quite often. And to be able to get 100 bass in 4 hours is just amazing. And I've seen it happen myself repeatedly on various species, time and time again. You can check out my YouTube. I've got it completely documented on there. I know fishermen love to tell tales, but I have it completely timestamped. And it's really amazing to see how many fish can come over the rail in comparison to what you're fishing on other systems. And whether they're eating ghost shrimp, razor clams, invertebrates, they're sitting here searching out scallops, and you'll see my live well contents of every single kind of shellfish there is. And in the last 2 years alone, I haven't found a single fin bait that's come by way of throwing it up or expelling it as a form of stress. Here's an underwater camera, live hit by spotted bay bass as that drag and shake method is coming along. Look all around, then you can see all the pockets, and why this little tiny stick bait standing up at attention is drawing so much attention and bringing more fish over the rail than anything else that I'm throwing. You can see a variety of these different clams, and how light this weight is. It stays too on top of the vegetation, and it'll float and allow them to just pick it up. And I've done this throughout San Diego Bay, Mission Bay, the Carlsbad Lagoon. What they're doing is eating at a clam bar. I'm sure many people can attest to this, but as I said, most of the things that they're throwing up over my rail, predominantly 90% of the time I'm seeing them shake out 10, 20, 30 different clams, chucking them at me on the way up. This is why the TRD system, the real deal, is so productive. These are razor clams. This is their preferred forage. Look at how they just pocket themselves out, the anterior section, the foot on the back. They poke out with their siphon, just looking, and they're like this even underwater, and they're just looking for food, plankton, different forms to feed off of. The spotted bay bass and variety of inshore fish see this, and this is a defenseless prey. They see this, and it is just, game is on. They just suck these things down by the dozens. It's a defenseless base, so it offers no harm to them. It's not going to even retreat. They don't have to expel energy out. And being on a Hobie kayak allows me to stay over this zone where they're in a draft of 2 to 3 feet I can get on these fish. They don't even know I'm there. It's so stealthy. I can keep the rod in my hand the entire time, making casts. I don't have to stop and put my paddle down, correct my drift, correct and counter my heading to know where I want to be at. This here is a prime example. Look at this greedy bastard. This guy shaved off his entire face, feeding off of clams. Sure, he'll eat a Twizzler if you were to put on it, or a gummy worm, or a G.I. Joe with a hook up his rear end. But this fish here, the main thing that he only wants to eat is a razor clam. Look at his face, it's absolute guaranteed proof. His face should have come out all the way out to over to here, but he's literally has shaved it off from years and years and years of feeding on clam-based beds. It's amazing to see a fish like this and what they eat and will put their guard down for. Come on, let's go. Play, s'il vous plaît, play. You guys see I'm hitting it. There's a little bit of a glitch here with a computer with a buffer. There we go. Live well contents. So this is what I'm talking about. At the end of the day, I have this to review as evidence. I know exactly what a fish is eating. You see there's a variety of different scallops, all different types of clams, bivalves, poking their way out, protruding out of the bottom. And this is what it is that these bass like and why these kinds of rigs are standing out. This one here produces a green pumpkin orange, produces a color that's reminiscent of our ghost shrimp, one of the other secondary baits that they're keyed in on. This is the profile size in the palm of my hand of a razor clam and the color pattern. Our system here called the TRD, some people refer to it as the turd. This is a little short turd looking rig. Resembles our razor clam, that's the deal. Another short clam that's filled into the belly. Here's another plate looking at these razor clams and why they're keyed in on them. These things are right up in their face. These fish I'm catching most of the time, their pectoral fins are laden with mud. They're just staging, setting up into these zones, whether it's moving around into the current, holding ground in between the grass beds and heavy eels, staging up on fish. Doesn't matter where I'm at, up off of ledges, transitional sections, deep into the channel, whether I'm in the piling sections, up in flipping baits and skipping them under docks. Every single area under the bottom, the bathymetry of the water, is littered with these little Swiss cheese pocket holes all over the ground, and these fish are just focused in on that lower section. Many are overworking this too. You want to look and see what a traditional Senko looks at next to this bait. Exact same color pattern here is probably my number 1, number 2 color, and they're going to be adding it to a variety of different creature patterns. You see it rolls right over, and this is in a tank with no movement at all, no water, no current. And look at the kind of action that it puts out on that level. Here's a plastisol bait, and as you see, it falls dead limpless. It's on the exact same mushroom-shaped jig. If you're a fish, what would you like? Look at that one just stand up asking me, eat me, hit me, hit me. The other one just falls dead limpless like it's a log. For reel size, anything from a 1,000 reel to a 3,000 reel is great. This one here specifically is a 1,000. My one over there is a 3,000 NACI, I think we call it a Nazi from Shimano. It doesn't break the bank either. I'm the kind of frugal kind of guy, similar to Ned, that doesn't like to break the bank and spend a lot of money on Stella and Van Staal, all other kinds of specialty stuff. I like to see if I can get it done with just $100 for a rod and $100 for a reel. And I've proven that well within time. And time again, a little tiny bait like this is going to outperform anything else. And I'm talking tournament winning success. If you see any of these tournaments that have popped up within the last 2 years, a lot of them offer prize purses of $300, $500 a piece. Do yourself a favor and pick up a Ned rig and smoke everybody, because there's nobody that's going to be able to compete against this kind of productivity. Right here is scientific proof, what I'm going to show you based upon the system that I actually found last night. This is hilarious that I just bounced across this while just floating through social media. Braid 2 is especially important because it reduces the spiral that these fish are hitting and chasing up your line like a football, trying to come off and break off your jig. The sensitivity is a major factor too with braid. You're able to bring out every single inch of slack with this hop and bounce retrieve that's designed by Terry Bivens, who used to be a NASCAR racer. I think back in 63 to 77, he won over 700 races. They switched back over to bass as a result of the NASCAR Rookie Championship. They tried to award it to him and presented it, and within a week, just because of technicality, revoked it and tried to give it to somebody else. In his disgust, he decided to go back to his basics there as fishing. But right here, what you see is something that can't be refuted. This doesn't come from me, it doesn't come from a fisherman. What you're going to see right here is a result of scientific proof, a study backing this whole TRD system. TRD standing for the real deal, or turd, because it resembles a little tiny rig, like a little tiny turd. This here is a biologist that reviewed this from a book written back in the day, and you're going to see here as the baseline, as a 100%, this is a normal crayfish here, represented with claws. Okay? This has nothing to do with the fishing industry, but showing the percent of a strike response on crayfish. Doesn't have anything to do with lures. It's just showing straight up the differences between a craw with claws, no legs, no antenna, no arms, no head, and no tail. They presented this to bass over a time and studied this, biologists, trying to see what exactly the strike response is. And as you see, 100% baseline is just the normal response of a regular intact crayfish, which is the one that blows it clear out of the water. This is before the Ned rig and this TRD system even came about. Where's that? Somewhere right around 270, 275, 280 probably, is the TRD system of what we've got here today. It's the defenseless nature of this prey. Different fisheries, fish will lose their claws and molt, different patterns, but this also encompasses such a wide range of forage, and fish want to key in on that. They see something odd, especially with no tail. Look at the response rate on there. It's the lowest one because they see something out of place. It all comes down to survival, and what they're geared in to do is just kill and eat, and that's it. It's just a basis of survival. They see something out of place in nature, they want absolutely nothing to do with it. But when they see something really easy presented to them, whether it be a worm, a hellgrammite, it represents itself on such a wide variety, and that's why it's so deadly. And it's not all about numbers, even though this brings the greatest number of productivity over my rail. It's not all about numbers. You see, there's a king-size pig here. Look at how fat and inflated this thing. This is the Kivera Basin. It almost seems as if every other dock pilot I can produce these kinds of results. This is only their 2 3/4 inch rig. There's other rigs that I've had this rather unorthodox approach that I've taken after fishing these lures, regardless if it has a Ned rig sticker on the package of Elastec or not. I'm focusing in on these bass, and most people are only finding off the 5 here these little tiny dinks, and I'm bass left and right, and I wasn't able to achieve that 10 years ago until I started fishing this Elastec based system. This is a 5-inch lure, and it's a reactive based lure too. It may be only titled Red Bone Color, which is my #1 favorite color, producing the biggest results. This is the lure itself right here, but in the mood ring. It has these ribbed bodies. I mean, a lot of you guys are fishing Kitex and different lures that have ribs, but this lure puts out a specific pulse vibration that a lot of people believe triggers fish into biting. Regardless of whether you believe that or not, the results are in on my own captain's logs and dockings. This is my #1 lure that's putting in everything for me. I have another lure that has a creature-based shrimp appendages, but this lure here replicates everything for me, whether it be a swim bait pattern, a clam, razor clam, sticking its tail out, appendage. This is the specific red bone color that I'm talking about. Originally it came out under Red Bone Glow, but for whatever reason they removed that moniker of Glow. It's still the exact same formula. I'm getting everything, you name it, harbor tuna, halibut. I take it out to the islands even though the calicos are focused in on fin bait, we all know that. I still want to test out this system, and they kill it hands down everywhere. This is the big TRD 4-inch on calicos. They don't ignore it any different than they would fin bait. I'm throwing this on a 3/0 rig. Traditionally on a 1/5 ounce. I know it's a little bit heavier than some people are used to in the Midwest Finesse system, but here in the inshore waters, when you're dealing with tidal movement and current, you're going to want to deal with a little bit heavier rig. 1/5 ounce fits it perfectly. The tapered design, the bulbous tail, and the fatties, it just stands out when this is upside down. It does the same thing that I'm doing when I'm upside down with gravity. It lifts it up on a vertical presentation and waves it around like crazy. And I'm not having to do anything, even at dead stick. Spotted bay bass, calico bass, sand bass, yellowfin croaker, giant bonefish, white sea bass, shortfin croaker, corvina, halibut, everything is coming over my rail with inshore game success. Before, when I'm fishing power fishing methods, I'd be lucky to see a 2 species, 3 if I was lucky. And this rig's fishing it consistently over freshwater or saltwater conditions. The rest of the time that I'm spending over in Florida, this works equally as well on snook, redfish, juvenile tarpon. This is the 4-inch big TRD that they developed. After this rig has taken off so much, they're noticing that the inshore guys like myself, red fishery, people down in Texas, down in Louisiana, are taking advantage of this system. The fish are absolutely inhaling it and killing it. This is your traditional Senko style bait, running right up alongside it. You can see this action. This is the Power Finesse shrooms. It's a little bit longer than the traditional Finesse shrooms, and it's more stouter jig to handle in the heavy current areas. Again, this is just in the tank. It's not like it's out in the current in different tidal movements and varying currents coming through, even adding extra action. It's a plastisol bait that falls lifeless dead. They also tear as a result of it too. They're only good for 1 to 10 fish. Plastisol bait isn't going to put out the same durability. You're not going to produce the same results. You're going to be fixing your bait constantly. After 1 or 2 fish, the bait keeps spiking in the middle, blows apart your bait, and you're trying to fix it. They even make products like an electronic or digital hemostat that fixes baits, or a glue like super glue called Mend It that helps bend it together. You don't have to do that with Elastec baits. I keep the same bait rigged on my hook for a month at least and just keep fishing it. It's the leader that I have to change if it's going to receive some abrasion. The bait itself, it's unheard of that you can fish upwards of 150 baits, 150 fish per bait, no problem. This is my preferred color here in the green pumpkin orange, which resembles our ghost shrimp. It's a standout color too, which is a really important thing to pay attention to. A lot of times guys are telling you that there's no importance on bait color. It all comes down to whether tidal movement, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Let me grab my UV light here. There we go. Pardon me? Murphy's Law, exactly. So, right here what I have in my hand is a UV black torch light. You can pick up one of these things for about $3-4 at Walmart. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because it is believed that some fish species detect light wavelengths based on the UV light. There are a few color patterns, there's several actually, but there are a few that I choose that stand out like this. A really good way to see this is, of course, under total darkness. You go into your bathroom or underneath your shirt to see. But to show you how much this is even going to work in daylight hours, look at what happens when I pass this over this bait. And this is the original puddle jumper made by Chuck Woods under a plastisol base. This isn't even the Elastec bait. Can you guys see this in the back? You see what a difference that is? Fish see that even 10 times more. And this just lights up like a Christmas tree to them. And they just chase it like mad. This is the exact same lure, doing the exact same thing as I told you, that was giving a tip-off to the original design of the puddle jumper to Chuck Woods. This is the TRD design under this motor oil. And I'm sure a lot of you people out here tonight have fished this color. This is an original old school color of jig worms, jelly worms from Mans. A variety of different people put this out in the 60s, 70s. Still do today. It's an amazing color that lights up. The green pumpkin orange does it too. Some baits that I have under natural base don't do a single thing. And I'm looking at this for daylight reasons, not under nighttime application. This bait is able to stand out like that, and glow reactive baits do this equally the same. Here in Southern California, we frequent the marine layer that comes through, and it changes things in the light penetration through the water. And there's a reason why I pick these colors and standouts. You'll find that chartreuses, fluorescents, and a variety of different colors, oranges that fall into that category of neons do this and are reactive. Redbone Glow is by far my #1 favorite bait to put and choose. as a reactive nature. This one here, as we've been experiencing 5-6 weeks straight rains, heavy rains with runoff coming through our waters, tannin staining our waters. This bait here with a chartreuse bottom, sexy penny color, but you see in daylight, this is even not at night, just in daylight, passing that light over how much it stands off. And this is what these fish are seeing. And it helps stands out and brings them into attention when you got your waters that are really heavily dirty. I'm also using scent, in addition, Procure gel shrimp with a UV flash on it. It comes with it. See here, this is the hop and bounce technique developed by Terry Bivens of Lebo, Kansas. Make a cast out, let it hit the bottom. A little flick, even half-quarter turn rotation, pick up the slack. I'm only using braid on this, 40, 65 pounds. I'm using an extra fast response taper rod on this. It's a Southeast Inshore Terramar by Shimano. I found it to be not only the cheapest, but the best rod to be using for this technique. I use a 7'6" for my longer casts and a 7-footer on a 1,000 size reel, and it limits me sometimes when I'm getting a little too antsy or impatient. I find myself being a little too fast. I stage down to the 1,000. Legal halibut here on the trout trick. I didn't have a net on me because I was just geared out for spotted bay bass. Just came for a quick measurement, catch and release. UV plays a major critical role. You're looking at that water, how stained it is. Some of these baits don't stand out, but motor oil, a major one, majorly lights up, if you would not believe. Shiner has that iridescent. The watermelon red really lights up, but you'll notice just the watermelon may not as well. It's more natural based, similar to the bad shad. When clear conditions come, I'll be fishing more in natural tone, sardines, mac based. When these waters are dirty, especially with vegetation down there, heavy silt and bottom composition, you're going to want that bait to stand out. And there are a few local outlets here, thankfully. The Wastec is increasing. You're seeing the Turners here today is running a few specials on Wastec. Dick's Sporting Goods has a really good selection of it. Dana Landing down in Mission Bay, frequent area that I hit. They got a really nice selection, and they're trying to ramp up the TRDs there and the Ned rigs. They got Ned locks as well. And those do not bend, built on the Mustad Ultra Point hooks. All the appendages on this Turbo Cross, I'm sitting here flipping, getting in the tightest areas. Nothing's limiting to me. Backing up, as soon as I get that hook set, I pop it in the 180 from Hobie on the Mirage Drive and back out. I retain no stretch on there, no slack at all. Instant bendo on these fish. I'm not losing barely any of these fish in comparison to using heavyweight jigs where you get the swing on them. Get your hook sets. These fish already get on a fine wire hook or getting it just impaled in their head instantly. The one thing that's important to note is you are not having to swing on these fish at all. Literally just a little reel set. As soon as you instantly feel that tick, instantly just a couple of reels clicks into it, reel into it, you're going to get your hook set. You do not have to swing for the fences on them by any means.
A rod that's lightweight, that's extremely sensitive. Dadgummit. Well, it's sensitive, all right.